In Lakesh and Veritas, everyone, we're sending you the frequencies of oneness and truth. With honor, respect, and gratitude to you all, welcome to Of the Sun's weekly Suncast podcast, where we cover evolutionary topics that are focused on expanding ourselves and humanity into becoming the frequency of truth and shifting one's consciousness into seeing through the lenses of oneness. So we're coming live from one mind. We have Lao Tzu of the Sun, the guiding force and architect of the vibrant organism, who provides of the Sunners wisdom, guidance, so they may find the truth and be free. I am Tavares of the Sun, certified instructor and practitioner of the Sun modalities, and the creative director behind Of the Sun's artwork, programs, and sessions. And I don't know if you can hear the birds in the background, but to everyone, including the birds, in Lakesh and Veritas.
In Lakesh and Veritas.
Honor, respect, and gratitude to you, Lao Tzu.
And honor, respect, and gratitude to you as well, and to all of our listening audience. We're so happy to be here. It's a beautiful day today, and we're very happy to be here with the windows open and the birds singing also. Yes. We want to kick off our show today with calling for the truth. Shall we all of you who are on the line, shall we all call for the truth? Because we have had enough of the lies, haven't we? Let's call for the truth. Let's call to see the truth in our experience. We'll look out of our eyes and see truth in front of us, that we hear the truth on our media, on our televisions, on our radio, from the mouths of our children and our husbands and our families. Let us hear the truth. And then let us have the courage to speak the truth to everyone. And let us call for the frequency of truth to come into our lives so that we may gain the wealth of the truth of our experience. So we should all do this together with honor and respect. And gratitude.
Gratitude is our attitude. Thank you, Lao Tzu. Filled with the truth. So speaking about this idea of truth, we have another expansive Suncast, and we are diving into communicating with consciousness. All forms of consciousness within nature, and receiving the insight on how to be more in alignment with the universal laws. For example, polarity, which deals with in the law of gender, which holds the divine feminine principle and the divine masculine. This is about balancing your divine feminine. This is what needs to resurface, and getting some insight from nature is pretty cool. It's helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have communicators, as you all know, and we're pretty excited to bring on another communicator. We have today with us Delilah Burrows, who is an MD, ND, and an NP, and is director and founder of Urea LLC. She has received her medical degree at Meharry Medical College in 1989 and is a board certified in radiology and neuroradiology. So a lot of background there. She is also the franchise owner for Lakesh Studio 2. She has, through her medical field and realm of healing, this has prompted her to delve into learning more about alternative methods into health and healing. And her path, it eventually led to her study of bioenergetics and the science of energy and healing under Lao Tzu Rasul of the Sun, and has received certifications in quantum light property clearing, all 7 levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as well as training and certified with certification in soul translation levels 1 and 2. And today happens to be our communicator for the consciousness of Father Tree and all the trees. In Lakesh and Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude, Delilah.
In Lakesh and Veritas, Dr. Delilah, how are you? We are so happy to have you with us today as a representative of communicators that are produced by Of the Sun. And we're so pleased that you'll be giving us communication from Father Tree, who we are waiting with bated breath to hear what Father Tree has to say. So thank you for joining.
Yes, and Lakesh and Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude. It is my honor. I'm thrilled to be here, and I welcome bringing this information to everyone, the communication from Father Tree. Real excited. I'm like, shaking, like, oh, yes.
Before you began, will you give a little bit of a little bit of the brief story of learning to be a communicator with us? You've taken classes and practices, and you've been bringing Father Tree through for us for several years now, but we have not made this public, and so we're excited to. But is there anything you want to say about your training or the idea of the Sun bringing forth the opportunity to train communicators?
Yes, yes, definitely. So with this training, it actually allowed me to tap into consciousness of just everything of all life. And particularly for me, at this point, it was the trees with Father Tree. But this work of energy, you know, we tend to ignore it in our everyday, our daily lives. And now that, you know, through the studies of the Sun universe, it's actually helped me to kind of tap into more of the consciousness of the world, the universe, the earth, so that then we can basically serve it, and so that it would also serve ourselves, so that we are all one. That's part of the En Lakesh as well, that we are all one. And, you know, just through the training and kind of like lifting up those old concepts and revealing what is real and true and what basically was resonating with me. You
This
know,
is
it's actually.
wonderful. I didn't to stop you, but it is wonderful.
Oh, no problem. And it just kind of allowed me to grow even further into myself, and kind of be able to release things that were kind of pent up, not knowing why or what was going on, what it is, and to be able to connect with the universe more. The earth has helped me to heal in multiple ways. And, you know, it's kind of nice. Father Tree is here bringing forward messages so that all can heal, so that we can heal the earth, heal ourselves, work together to make this a better place for all life on this planet.
I think this is a great introduction for Father Tree. So if you are ready to bring forward the communication, we are awaiting it with
Okay.
anxious anticipation.
Absolutely. Okay, this is a message from Father Tree of the Sun universe. En Lakesh and Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude. Many changes are forthcoming as the world, Earth, is evolving. An upheaval to make new, a churning of the earth for new seeds to be planted for new life, an opportunity for change. The revelation of the disruption of the natural laws of the universe, not flowing according to universal laws. New seeds of new thoughts to be planted with life's purpose. Corrective change cannot occur until the ills of this earth are brought forward to be seen, so that all can be awakened. The truth being revealed as we, the trees, are working overtime to lift the veil of those deceptive thoughts that has plagued the earth for so long. Those deceptive thoughts invading our earth's atmosphere, greatly affecting those who have lived on this earth the longest, and increasingly an arduous task for man to clear and deflect. Those deceptive thoughts of man's self-destruction, destroying life, and destroying Earth's resources for the living. Thoughtless actions against self and against the earth, the result from those negative, ill thoughts that invade our atmosphere on Earth. We, the trees, have worked tirelessly to assist in removing those polluted thoughts as we remove CO2 from the atmosphere for the survival of man. The earth is out of balance. The imbalances of forces of the feminine and the masculine leading to the self-destruction of man and life. We, the trees, have incorporated the female with the male by design and are not faced with this plight of separation and self-destruction. We are balanced. We are one. With balance comes purpose and truth. Purpose with clarity. The clarity of truth of what is important. Living in correction of purpose. It is our mission to bring balance back onto the earth for the salvation of all life. Feminine balance will assist to correct the trajectory of this earth that is leading to self-destruction by man. Of the Sun universe continues to play a major role through clearing the overburdened atmosphere of incongruent thoughts, bringing forward the rebirth of new thoughts, high vibrational thoughts, bringing forward the oppressed feminine, an opportunity for rectification. We, the trees, are honored to work with you of the Sun universe and all allies who are here to correct the ills of this earth plane, those ill thoughts leading to those feelings of depression, despair, guilt, and self-destructing behaviors of enslavement. Let us work together, animal and plant life, man and trees, moving together in truth, moving together with purpose, moving together for the salvation of all life on earth, working together side by side, embracing those loving thoughts of gratitude, strengthening our commitment to the earth, bringing the life back to its original purpose. We, the trees, are in much gratitude with honor and respect. And Lakesh and Veritas.
Thank you. That was wonderful to hear from Father Tree again. And we thank you so much for being the communicator for this high-level evolutionary experience for all who listen. Is there anything you'd like to share about the communication?
How I view Father Tree is him offering wisdom and enlightenment to all. I'm grateful to be able to tap into that consciousness so that we can then do better, save ourselves, save the planet, save our lives, save our families.
Well, we certainly thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
One of the things that really stood out to me, of course, because I'm very much in the clarity of us not being in balance, that the masculine and the feminine are together, harmonized in the biology and in the network and in the working system of the trees. All of the trees are one. And so they provide stability for the rest of us and can work together, as Father Tree says, animal and plant and tree and human. This is a wonderful reset for us to understand that we have ignored our landscape, our ecology, and our trees. And they are a vast intelligence, a huge consciousness on this planet and way beyond this planet. The relationship between humans and trees is yet to be understood and is extremely significant to the survival of those on the planet. So I loved hearing all of the things that Father Tree had to say, and I'm excited to hear future messages from Father Tree as well. Tavares, do you have anything?
Yes. Once again, thank you to Delilah and Dr. Delilah and Father Tree. I was sitting here thinking, man, I'm being told about myself by a tree. A consciousness, an ancient tree at that, who has been just watching and observing humanity. And one of the things that stood out, well, there's these two lines that Father Tree brought forth: lifting up those old concepts and reveal what is true. And we have mentioned this, Lao Tzu specifically, about this idea of the fourth wall, and and this idea that many of us think that no one's watching when we're doing evil deeds and operating low vibrationally. but everything's watching and everything's listening. Our homes, as well as the trees, these ancient beings who, a lot of these trees have been around hundreds of years, so they've seen a lot with humanity. And then, of course, the symbiotic relationship that Lao Tzu was speaking of. And then the second line was new seeds of thoughts to be planted with life's purpose. So it was just, for me, striking how poetic these things were. But again, this encouragement for us to operate differently, and I'm thinking about if I was the consciousness of a tree, just watching humanity go through the same thing over and over and over and over and over. And, this urge from our cousins. So that's what I have. And thank you again for bringing it forward.
I have spoken to the trees in previous times, and the things that they share will surprise you. I'll share some of them with you. Sometimes the trees are appalled and upset by the behavior of people in forests, the activities, the meditations, the summonings, the things that people do when they think no one's watching. But the trees are not pleased with the frequency of the darkness that humans often, or mankind, brings into their spaces and pollutes them with it. And so I have had occasion to have that understanding and that discussion with trees. So we should consider all the trees are watching. They all see you. Everything sees you. And thank you for bringing that point forward. It's not only that, though. When the fires were burning in California, where the trees are thousands of years old, the giant redwoods and the trees in the mountains, when I spoke to the trees then, they said these people care only for themselves. They have no thoughts for the ecology around them, for the billions of living life forms that exist, that are conscious in the environment with them. And what I understood was that the idea is that how will they fare when they don't have any oxygen, when we finish burning down all the trees? The trees themselves were in harmony with the fires as a point of reset, a teaching, an understanding for the mankind that lives there that had no thought of it. So I'm happy to add to our repertoire of chronicles from the trees more valuable insight into what's going on and how the disruption on the planet is disrupting our ability to stay alive. So we thank you again, Dr. Delilah, for bringing that forward. And we'd like to move on and ask you questions about your relationship with of the sun and any of the things that you'd like to talk about. I know I'm very pleased and I'm very happy to say that you're quantum light property clearer and that you're practicing clearer. Would you want to speak about that?
Oh, yes, definitely. People don't realize that your environment plays a huge factor with regards to, your overall health. We're energetic beings. Our environment, the energies around in our environment, and even, for instance, the trees that, Father Tree talks about, the trees clearing the energy. We've got energy intermingling with one another and clearing the thoughts and so forth. So I found that in healthcare, when I was practicing, people with chronic illnesses that they keep recurring, and it's like, well, why is that? It just was like I had to contemplate and figure out why is that. And I figured out a large component of our general health is energetic. That's one layer that's been neglected that I found in our current healthcare. And once this is addressed, this actually helps one heal significantly and maintain their health significantly. And I'm grateful to have the experience of the sun get this teaching of property clearing, there's just more to life than just the actual chemical imbalances that are corrected with medications. It's basically addressing the whole person, and energy interacts with those chemical interactions in your body, the chemical reactions that affect the physical, the chemical reactions that affect the mental, the thoughts, the emotions. So, my take on property clearing is you've got emotions that are embedded in your home, in your space, and you can't get rid of that illness. Well, let's go ahead and clear the energy that's behind it.
Yes.
And then I've seen that, from my experience, I've had seen it truly work for myself. I've seen it with clients. I've seen it with my children, and it's just a wonderful thing. Another layer that needs to be added into our daily maintenance of helping ourselves.
This is so gratifying to hear you speak about it as a practitioner, as a medical doctor, as someone who's been through the entire spectrum of what's available to us in our world at the level of intelligence that the earth is operating at. You have been educated in what the third dimension considers the highest level, and then now you have an education at the ignored aspects. This, I think, is very relevant. And I don't know if you have had experiences with this, but I think you have. When you are a property clearer and you go into a house and there is a water issue or there's a backup issue, we can always see the physical medical issue of the person in the digestive tract. Or when there's an issue with an electrical box or electricity in the house, we can see that it has to do with the electrical synapses in the brain and the connections. So have you had any experience with that?
Yeah, electrical. I know living in a house where there was issues with headaches and so forth, and then all of a sudden the electricity goes out. You have flickering of the lights in the house. What's going on? As far as plumbing is concerned, yeah, I think everything that you brought up, yes, plumbing and digestive issues, having stomach issues. We've had people in my home who had issues in their stomach, pains and so forth, or actually, flooding, water coming into the house. There's the leaks from a leaky pipe.
Which is all the same thing. Pipes represent the stomach and the electrical represents the brain and the thinking. And these are things that in property clearing that we can identify. And as a medical doctor, it's very easy for you to see how these things transfer, and it's the relationship between the living consciousness in the house becomes the relationship with the living body. And so these are ways in which we can see it. And this is what property clearers learn through experience more than through their classes. So we're really happy to hear you talk about it and that you've seen this as well. You are also an Inlakesh 2 owner, which is a franchisee owner of the Sun as the parent company of Inlakesh, and you have a franchise and are starting a business in Georgia in your franchise. Did you want to mention that or talk about it or how people can reach you?
We are actually planning a wellness retreat that's coming up on May 1st. It's Inlakesh Studios virtual wellness retreat that anybody can join virtually, where we will provide high vibrational information. We'll provide bioenergetic scanning. We're going to provide energetic techniques that we're going to show to people who join this particular retreat. Meditation, showing techniques in order for you to be able to do it for yourself. Because bottom line is that, we have to take accountability for our own health, whether it's physical, mental, and emotional. And basically this particular franchise, my mission is to be able to provide people with tools so that they can help themselves. So this retreat is going to be really fantastic, if you ask me, because we're going to provide, again, meditations and information and techniques to be taught and show people what they can do to help themselves, as well as going to have at the end a cooking segment where we can show people how to use food, which is energy because it provides the body with energy, but to provide it with the good food, the high vibrational food that can help you to heal. And remember, if you have a healthy gut and body, you're able to have the clarity in order to move forward in whatever you have to do in life.
So you'll be doing this with one of our friends, another doctor who's a friend of the Sun Universe and a quantum light property clearer. Is that correct? Yes. Who will you be doing with, Doctor?
With Dr. Sarana Satcher. She will be joining us, and she's an integrative and holistic health practitioner, multi-boarded internal medicine, rehabilitation medicine, very well versed in this area. And so we're collaborating together. We actually trained together in school. And so with like-mindedness, we said, let's go ahead and bring this information out to everyone so that they can then learn for themselves and take care of themselves and take ownership for themselves. So it's going to be exciting because we're providing this retreat, this virtual retreat, so that we can share with everybody what we know and what they can do too to help themselves.
Will you share with us again how people can contact you or sign up for the retreat? What's the information that's needed?
So you can sign up through my website is enlakeshstudio2.com and go in there, and then the homepage, it just has the retreat information right away. I'm also can be found on Instagram and Facebook. So, and I guess, Tavares, you're going to put the link at the bottom too? Or
Most definitely. Most definitely. I'm going to put all the links, all the ways that you can get in contact with Dr. Lila, social translator. Cool. I also like to just briefly share, this is exciting and really neat. One of the things that is most striking to me is that you both are doctors, so you've had the background where that was just solely focused on the physical, which it ignores the spiritual aspect and how that plays into it's the causal factors. And, doing that for so long, but then realizing the incongruencies within it, and also how it plays out within your own individual life in terms of the influence of energy. So, I think what you got going is really something phenomenal because it's a great balance of both, so I can see it's like that masculine and feminine again, with the intuitive, the meditative mindfulness aspect, acknowledging the influence of energy in our human experience. And then you got your physical with all your years of experience in the medical field. So I think this is really great, and those who do desire to partake are really in for a treat. So we'll have all those links in the description below.
Yes. I'm excited to bring this forward because, as you said, Tavares, I've kind of seen it from the three-dimensional aspect in allopathic medicine, working in the hospital for many years. And, people just, a lot of times they just we're not completely satisfied with getting the healing that they need. It was just one aspect that was missing. And I mean, I felt it. I felt that it was missing. So I just went ahead and moved forward to try to find out more, with the health of my family. My father, he had chronic illness of Parkinson's, and I wish I had learned more. I had learned this earlier in order to have been able to help him, but I guess that's part of my journey, to go through that experience so that I can then go ahead and continue and dig deeper and evolve. to the point where then I can also help others.
Yes, certainly.
And guide others.
So you are also working with bioenergetics. Would you explain that?
Yes. So I'm a bioenergetic, I'm a Nest Health practitioner using the bioenergetic wellness system. And what that particular system will do is it actually, they're scans, and they're tangible scans which you can obtain to look at the energy points that are outside and inside of your body to see whether there is any blockages or imbalances. It's pretty much following traditional Chinese medicine, looking at the meridian system. And it's a multitude of points that are seen, over 300 points in the body, but it helps to guide the individual with regards to what is going on in their health, if they're having any health issues, looking at the emotional aspects, looking at the physical, looking at nutrition, and looking at the energy that's behind the nutrition, looking for imbalances that they're being exposed to or not exposed to enough. So it's a great tool that can be utilized to help manage your health, your how you manage your health. You know, you can use it for when you go and see your primary care physician, and then you can see and look for correlations and to see, well, okay, why do I still have this issue, or what can I do in order to enhance it, in order to eventually heal, to promote and support more healing. You know, a lot of times things like nutrition, looking at the proper foods, and the energy that's behind it, you know, can help balance you out so that you can go ahead and heal and maintain that healthy body.
Do you find that this is compatible with your relationship of the sun and the energy work? And how does that work for you?
Oh, absolutely. Because what it will do is, like, for instance, the environment. And we talk about Father Tree. You look at it as far as property clearing. You can look to see, well, okay, you have the imbalances in the energy that's outside of you, around you. You've got polarity, magnetic imbalances that the Nest Health scans will address and identify. And property clearing can help clear some of that energy and imbalance so that then you can then sleep better. You know, you don't have those anxiety issues.
We see so many people who are in allopathic medicine, so many people who have studied for decades and who are truly healers, who have been kept from healing because of the limitations of the education and the system. We applaud you for stepping outside of that system and finding things that will work, that you understand, and that allow you to be the healer that you are, as well as those who are contributing to it. We want you to have the most success with your upcoming retreat. And we thank you so much for joining us and sharing this with us. So thank you so much,
yes.
Dr. Delan.
I'm more than honored.
Well, before you go, we would like to ask for you to share with us and with the audience in Tavares to call back the power of the divine feminine into our world as you represent the power of the divine feminine, along with Dr. Serena, in bringing forward a retreat that is new thought, that can bring women into balance, that can bring our world back into balance. You are bringing forward what must be done, which is the way for the divine feminine to come back. We salute you in Lakesh.
Yes, in Lakesh.
Veritas. With honor, respect, and gratitude.
There is a trajectory where the natural processes of creation are extinguished. This is a goal and a plan to destroy the principle of the feminine. We see it in nature, in the history of abuse to Mother Earth, and artificial food and sterilized seeds, and in vitro babies and robotic female companions. and animals being produced without nature. Our reverence and our love for ourselves and nature is what is needed to keep us here. Call for the power of the feminine balance to come forward in our world with unwavering honor and respect to the masculine. Together, planetary balance can be restored. Speak to the consciousness of everything.
In Lakesh and Veritas, honor, respect, and gratitude, welcome back to Suncast Podcast. And once again, thanking Dr. Delilah Burrows for joining us and speaking on her experiences with Of the Sun as a quantum light property clearer, as well as bioenergetics. And she earlier brought forth the communication from Father Tree. And we're going to speak and go a little further into this idea of everything is consciousness. You know, the Father Tree mentioned something along the lines of the things that are lies or the things that just have not been serving us, to let those fall away like dead leaves, you know, and stepping into planting seeds of new thought, which it's ancient thought, but apparently it's new to some, which everything is alive and everything is consciousness. So, Lao Tzu, you mind kicking us into gear with this?
Thank you. And this idea is very, very important for all of us to understand. If you would consider for a moment all the things that we ignore in our lives that are truly conscious, let us start first with the idea of our own bodies. How often do we look in the mirror and then think there's something wrong with the way we look, or we're having a bad hair day, or our ear is not exactly symmetrical on one side of our head to the other, or that one breast is larger than the other, or that we need somehow to make some adjustments instead of just loving our uniqueness and our individuality, instead of trying to be what is being projected as what we should be, which, of course, one size fit all pantyhose never worked. We need to consider that how we think about us is how we think about the earth, which is where we come from. It is literally, we are made in this closed system from things on the earth. So this is a closed system. Water does not escape it. Things don't randomly come in outside of the orbit of the trash that's in the satellites. We're not made from anything outside of this closed system. So the relationship we have with ourselves is exactly mirrored and reflected in the relationship we have with the earth. So if you would consider that how critical, how comfortable you are with being critical of yourself, how comfortable you are with thinking you don't like this about yourself, or you don't like the size of your shoe, or you don't like the way your knees look, or whatever it is. And if you thought about how, if you understood that this was a living, breathing consciousness, would you think that way? If a puppy walked into the room, would you think, I don't like the way your tail curls. I don't like the way your hair looks. We need to augment you and give you surgery because your buttocks needs to be a different size, or your hair needs to be braided instead of natural, or all of these ridiculous experiences that we twist and torture and tie ourselves into inappropriately, without any thought of love for ourselves, with any thought of reverence and respect for the fact that we have a body, and that the body is perfectly designed for us, and that body represents the law of our experience, of what we came to earth to experience in that body. And that the way that we augment and change the earth, we take the sand out of the earth, we remove the phosphorus till there won't be any more, that we dump garbage into the oceans. All of this represents us putting garbage into ourselves, draining ourselves of vital minerals and
important aspects that make us deficient. So as the planet loses deficiency in minerals, so we also lose deficiency in minerals. As the planet is mined of sand till there's no longer any structural foundation for the planet to stand on, so too we empty ourselves of the fortification that's needed to give us the strength to navigate our realities. The way in which we think of ourselves, we feel very comfortable with feeling like, well, it's me. I can, treat myself however I want to treat myself. It's really epitomized in the song by Billie Holiday. It ain't nobody's business what I do. It ain't nobody's business if I let my man beat me. That's the way the words in the song go. But the truth of the matter is it's all of our businesses. It's every child looking at us when we don't like ourselves, when we don't like our hair, we don't like our noses, we don't like our faces, we don't like the weight we are. We don't consider that our construct was perfectly designed for us. And then, because we feel so justified in this disagreement with ourselves, we feel very justified in cutting down all the trees and deciding that it should be a park instead of a place that houses billions of life forms that are conscious. We destroy that in the same way we do things to our bodies and to our hair and surgically augment ourselves. So this is very important to recognize that we should give honor, respect, and gratitude to the body that follows our instruction relentlessly and faithfully through a lifetime, that we give no attention to, where we feel very comfortable with imprinting it with the dissatisfaction of our bad day. So I wanted to make sure we discuss that today.
This is really interesting. It has my mind rolling. When you were expressing this relationship that we have, that you said something along those lines. The relationship that we have with ourselves is a relationship that we have with the earth. And because we're holographic, I'm sure it's every other experience, with our mothers, our partners, our coworkers, our bosses, our children, etc. But what was hitting me was all of these examples that you were giving were forms of condemnation to self. Like when we look in the mirror and we point out all the things that are wrong about ourselves. And I'm like, wow, that's a fascinating way of thinking, because as you continue to speak, you were painting this image that humans are actually, we were made perfect.
Yes.
We were made whole to everything that we need, and then some. We don't even know what we have here.
We don't even have the operating system.
Exactly.
We don't have a manual. We don't even know what the secret compartments are.
You see, so there's this thought, this damning and incrimination of not meeting a delusionary standard of perfection. So humans are operating in this delusionary construct, ignoring the perfection, but we're striving for the illusionary. So, would you mind elaborating or explaining, where does this type of construct originate from? Because I'm sure everyone has gone through this and is experiencing it.
It's so pervasive in our world, and it really comes from this idea of separation, of not being one with the reality that we are living, breathing aspects of the planet that arise from the planet. We come out of the earth and soil and the minerals of the planet. But because we're in the delusion that there are those who are greater than us, then we always see ourselves as less than. So the way we treat the earth is the way that we consider how we treat the least of us. And that's not true. There is no least of us. There is no life that is less sacred than any other life. There is no microorganism, no ant, no roach that's less sacred than we are. However, this is an adoption that we have adopted, this idea that the least of us are women, dark women, old women, women who have children, and then we are treating the earth as we treat what we think are the least of us. So we don't have any problem with raping and pillaging and plundering the earth, taking things out of the earth, killing people for blood diamonds, moving out the minerals, and hunting animals to extinction. We don't feel any kind of way about it. We want to, what we think is valuable, we want to hoard it or use it all up, or be the man who has the most toys, who dies with the most junk.
Yes.
Truly. So we have evidence that when we think things are valuable, we're willing to kill for it. And like I mentioned, blood diamonds, that when there's limited quantities of something, it increases the value for our hunger for things like oil or rare minerals. And the things like rare minerals in our phones, there's over 50 different small types of metals and rare commodities from the earth that are in our computers and our cell phones. So we're exhausting those small supplies. History shows that we often hoard things like gold, or enslave those that are less fortunate than us, or we hunt them to extinction or misuse them to extinction. And the things that we don't think about are things like the topsoil. Now, we need topsoil to grow our food, and the global supply of topsoil isn't going to wander off the earth, but it has been mismanaged to the point where we won't have the vital nutrients that are needed, that they have been lost over the last 150 years. And it would take over 500 years to grow 1 inch of topsoil naturally. The erosion and the intensive farming, the deforestation and the global warming are all contributing to the loss of topsoil. If we lose topsoil, we are unable to grow food in the medium that was designed intelligently, divinely, for our food to come from. So that automatically means we're in subtraction, we lose. Things like phosphorus, that's how we strike a match. And we're running out of phosphorus. It is also part of our DNA structure. So our DNA cannot function without the phosphorus in the earth that's in the farming and of the food. But we're running out of it. And it doesn't look like it's very far away. There are some scientists who say 35 years and it'll be gone, and some scientists who are saying 400 years. But in the scheme of things, we need to be considering what's needed to keep our food and our DNA working. One of the most dramatic things that I found is that this idea of sand and water are the most consumed natural resources, the most consumed on the earth, and because the aggregate that is used to build cement is made from sand, and that the world is constantly putting up giant toxic buildings and then indiscriminately deciding to tear them up and then put up new, littering our landscape with these huge monstrosities of terror that are toxic for most humans to be in, and that will stand for many, many years, but are stealing the sand, which is one of the big black market commodities on the planet, and it's a limited supply. And this is because the sand that's in the Sahara Desert and all the great deserts is unusable because it doesn't stick together. So the sand is being taken from our seabeds and our lakes and our rivers, which is the underpinning or the structure of how the earth holds together. So it's like we're taking the glue out of the structure, and now sinkholes and many other things can happen. Many life forms that live in the sand. All of this is in jeopardy, but more importantly, it represents us. We are losing the glue that holds us together. We are participating in a massive demise of our own human experience. Yes.
Yeah, so that's literally what I was thinking. This appears to be a massive issue with collective self-preservation and how it's filtering over into the very home that we live on. It is truly suicide.
Absolutely. However, I want you to know, suicide is not so easy. We're harder to kill than you might think.
Okay. Yes. Indeed.
When we're babies, we vaccinate our babies as soon as they're born, which is not much different than drilling a hole into the earth and inserting poison to try and get natural gas or oil. We do this, vaccinations. You get them during the time where you're growing and vulnerable. You get them often and repeatedly in our modern. So in the same way that we allow our engineers and those who are in decision making, the government and the lawmakers, to pass laws that allow us to drill into the ground. And some people in rural areas have fire coming out of their sinks because of the things that are being drilled into the earth. So, that didn't kill us. So
I'm still here.
We're still here. And we rearrange the way our brain is wired by littering our landscape and interfering with the waveforms, the natural waveforms of the platonic solids, the air, earth, water, that are conscious and that are helping humanity and guiding the direction of our planet. We interfere with that by stringing telephone lines across the entire planet. And now we have cell towers that dot that landscape. And this changes the way that we receive divine and psychic and information coming into our experience. We even are suspicious of children who are left-handed because they're thinking a different way. Their right brain is working. So we have in our minds like, ooh, that must be something terrible, something bad, when in fact, this is the natural way in which some people think. Everybody doesn't, it's not one size fit all pantyhose, not everyone thinks the same way, but the information coming into the humanity comes in through the right side of the brain, and it can be experienced through the left side of the body. But the cell phone towers, the large electrical power stations, the electricity coming into the houses, the telephone lines, these things interfere with our ability to receive the truth. So we find ourselves not clear on the truth. We find ourselves more and more separated from nature, and at the same time we're killing nature, the birds that have to be near the telephone lines, the trees that have to suffer the constant and incessant talking that humans are doing because of the lack of being able to have something important to say. So we're chatting about nothing. And that is in all of the landscapes, on all of the wires, in all of nature that interacts with it. Every single living consciousness has to interact with that incessant experience on the telephone wires. And there's much more.
Yes, that's a very strong visual. I'm sitting here just looking in awe like, dang, we don't really realize the impact. And it's, again, because of the separation, just getting back to that, how this separation acting as if, oh, the trees will be all right. They can take this. But it's interesting how I was driving down the street and I saw, and you all may have seen this before, where trees that are near power lines, they will avoid it.
Yes.
And I saw this tree, one whole half was branched out, extended, reaching, stretching, and then the other half was completely flat,
right,
to avoid moving any closer to the radiation from these wires. And so it's so clear and evident that these things that we're doing is harming other life forms, and it's also the life forms that we need to survive.
And we should be so smart that we back up away from the darkness.
I think it would be a very wise choice if we're looking to continue to exist.
Yes. And it goes on. We medically assault our bodies with antibiotics and steroids and put in our foods phytoestrogens that interfere with the hormones and interfere with the clarity of gender. And so in the same way that we use, things on our plants that make them grow and look really good for a very short time and then are so toxic that it kills the bees. So we are, what we're doing with antibiotics and steroids and phytoestrogens is poisoning ourselves. But in the same way, we are poisoning ourselves. We are poisoning the earth with other ideas that amount to the same thing. The biological warfare on our lawns. Like, who said that everyone has to have a lawn? Why is it that we have to put chemicals on that kill everything that lives around us? Like, everything must die for us to have a house. And then our animals, our pets, have tumors because they're playing in the artificial turf that we have arranged, which is almost like a moat. Instead of having a dragon, we have lawn care. Who said that we have to do this? There are laws in each community that will fine you and bring you up, so to say, on charges if your lawn doesn't look just like the lawn next door and like the ideal. And at what cost? What runoff into our water system? Every truck we see that's spraying our lawns, it's really affecting our water supply because we're all drinking the same water that's coming out of our septic that's being cleaned, but it's not being cleaned of the frequencies of the murder and the death of the millions of things that die, that live around us. All of the animals, all of the squirrels and the birds and all of the ants and all of the worms, all are affected by the poison that we actively participate in and enthusiastically pay high sums of money for, to poison our children, ourselves, our elderly. This is really us hating ourselves, and then it shows up in hating the planet, and we're all in collusion. We're all in agreement that we want that lawn, and we want it fast. And we don't want anything alive on it.
And we don't want anyone to be in judgment if we don't
Yes.
have that lawn
Yes.
cosmetically perfect.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So it's a very, very interesting thing. But I want to, go on to mention that we chemically tranquilize the behavior when we educate our children. If the children are not engaged by the idea of learning the many exciting things that we do know in science, then we tranquilize them. Oh, you're not engaged? You must be ADD. We're going to give you something because we're not going to focus on making sure everything's exciting for you. We'll give you something so you'll sit still. So we're going to use biological warfare and chemical tranquilizers to make sure that our lack of giving you engaging education that you cannot embrace on an insufficient diet, when I don't have, as a teacher, enough patience to deal with you, let us just put you on meds because I'm on meds. I'm drinking. I'm smoking every day. I'm showing my children that I can't cope, and taking the tote, So this is how we treat the earth, is how we treat ourselves, how we treat our children who are now turning into zombies because we're chemicalizing them instead of giving them interesting and engaging and exciting things to learn. If you would think back, each person, there was at some point in your life you probably were really engaged and excited about something. And you may have kept that thread or you may have lost the thread, but this is what is very important for us to see, that this is not a big invisible boogeyman. This is us in collusion, in cooperation with desensitizing and drugging, because everybody wants to get high, or they want to get drunk, or they want to medicate themselves. We feel like it's fine to medicate our children, because otherwise we're too medicated to deal with them. So we need to medicate them so we can deal with each other.
Yeah.
So we can unwrap that prepared packaged food and microwave it, which is another whole thing. So this is, it's important for us to see that we are not only doing this to ourselves, but we are in collusion with ourselves to destroy ourselves.
So this is a very vivid scene that you're painting, and like you said, it's very clear in all the different ways in which we live the human experience, and where we have many different choices in our experience to choose to be in collusion with the darkness or not. So what would you recommend for those out there who's like, all right, I'm done with the darkness, I don't want to be in collusion anymore? I don't want any of those charges from the universe on my karmic history. So what would you recommend for those out there listening?
Well, it's what's really actually the fact is that if you are here at this time of the reset, at the time in which the entire planet became a prison planet, that there was an entire pandemic. This is unprecedented in any recorded history. When the entire planet had this experience and you are here, you are the solution. You are also the problem at the moment, but you are potentially the solution. When you no longer are nose blind and in agreement with not treating yourself with the appropriate love everyone is, wishing for love. Everyone is like, you gonna love me. We have songs like that.
Yes.
You gonna love me no matter, I'm ready to enslave you. To make sure you gonna love me. Everybody, it's begin with love of self. Eat the right food. Eat some sprouts. Give yourself a way to have stem cells that bring about new life and proper thinking. Begin to clean out your own body, and then pay attention to all life forms around you. Pay attention to the grass. Pay attention to when the birds sing. Listen to their singing. It can help clarify our thinking. Be grateful that the trees are making oxygen for us. All of these things are so important, because otherwise we are not even getting a fraction of the life experience that we're supposed to have. Make sure that our children do not see that we hate ourselves so much that we don't wear our own hair, that we don't wear our own skin, that we smother our skin with clothes so tight that it can never breathe. That make sure that the children see that, we love ourselves, so that they can catch the frequency of love of self and then love of planet, so that we remain here. It is very clear that no one is coming to rescue us, that it is us who must awaken from this slumber of walking off the edge of the cliff. We are walking off the edge of the cliff. We have to awaken and not be okay with cutting ourselves up and rearranging the parts, because one morning we wake up and we're dissatisfied, and then we are spinning off in that direction for 5 years, and then we look up 5 years later and we've changed our minds, but we've already cut and rearranged our pieces without consulting the consciousness of the body that we live within to ask us, are you in agreement with me cutting you up because I don't like the way my breasts look? I'd like to stuff my breasts with silicone pouches. Are you good with that? Are you okay with me sticking something artificial in you that might leak and destroy us both? Before you just start doing things? Or are you willing to let someone who you don't know, who is a doctor, who may be drunk or may be high, and you willing to let him take a knife to you and suffer the consequences? We need to think about this. So
It sounds very daunting when you convey those questions in that way. And I'm sure people could hear their body saying, no. I know mine did.
we consume so much preservatives in the prepared food and things that are processed that we don't even need embalming. We could just live until we die and fall over. We've embalmed ourselves with all the preservatives. I distinctly remember being able to go to a fast food place and order a salad and taste the formaldehyde, what they use for embalming bodies, on my lettuce. I'm like, I'm not ready yet. And so we're embalming ourselves, or we're microwaving ourselves into eliminating whatever available nutrients that could possibly have made their way through it. First we're gonna embalm it, then we're gonna microwave it. So, but we're harder to kill than you might imagine, because we're still here, some of us, but we're also in the middle of a massive exit where people don't want to continue to live this life, where it is not satisfying enough. There's not enough enthusiasm. There's not enough beauty. There's not enough love to animate us when we're full of diseased or poisonous artificial substances that we're applying to our skin and to our hair. And I want to talk more about this and in future podcasts, but I wanted to bring these things forward in view of what Father Tree has said to us, that we must see our part. This is not being done to us. It is us being in agreement. If we all stood up and said we don't want our lawns poisoned, or we don't want cell towers, disrupting our ability to be in contact with divine intelligence, who could stand against us? But we're very comfortable with wanting things fast and haven't really put any thought into how else it can happen. But there are other ways.
I'd say confused as well.
Yes, absolutely.
The truth is distorted. This is, again, why many of the practices that's shared on this podcast, like calling for the truth.
Right.
So you can pierce the veil of lies and see, hey, you know what? This is not correct. This is not the way life was intended for us. I'm going to do something about it.
Absolutely.
Starting with myself. So I think this is solid, and this has been very great and expansive to continue with the reverence and respect and understanding of the divine feminine principle, and just consciousness in general, and how we can greater strengthen our relationship with it, and understanding that innate, deep connection that we have, where it's reflective of us and the relationship we have with ourselves, as well as all within our experience. So any finals?
The final idea is that, and we have to be in whole responsibility for what we have allowed and permitted. That there is no one to point the finger at but ourselves, at the fatal level of self-sabotage that we have augmented our own bodies with. And I talk about it a little in the last podcast as well, and that have littered the earth with. And then we are that same expression of augmented consciousness littered. We think that we could have a beautiful experience as the beautiful and divine beings that we were designed to be, if we could think that way about ourselves. If we start getting rid of what's artificial, we can see that. I don't know how many times you've thought about it, but I often think when I see people walking down the street, if I were an alien and I were looking down on the planet and I saw people walking around with unborn synthetic things stuck on their crown chakras that doesn't really look like hair, but it looks like some augmentation, like I guess like the feathers the Indians had. It's not real and it's not natural. It's not from an ego. It's a synthetic product. that interferes with our ability to receive divine messages, when we're walking around using our eyelids to carry around more synthetic particles that interfere with our sight and our skin, when we cover our pores with things that are not good for the body, all in the idea of beautification. At the same time, we're wearing toxic things around our necks and electronic bands around our wrists, and wearing clothes that are too tight for our skin to breathe, while we balance on 5-inch heels. Oh, and don't let me forget that we have 3-inch nails stuck on the living tissue, 3-inch acrylic plastic stuck on the living, breathing tissue at the end of our fingertips. Can you imagine? What would you think if you were an alien and you came and saw people looking like that? Would you think, oh, these are intelligent beings rushing towards suicide? Or would you think there's some confusion here? So I'd like to leave you with that thought that what we think is beautiful is a passing, finite idea that is not endure and is not the truth, and it's killing us. And I will continue to talk about this in future podcasts.
Change is coming. Shall we call for the truth?
Yes. Shall we call for the truth? Shall we call to see the truth? When we open our eyes and look at ourselves, do we see the truth of who we are? Shall we call to hear the truth? Does what we hear broadcast in our world, does it represent a level of truth that will support and uphold us and our children? And shall we have the courage to speak the truth when somebody says something that's not true? Do we have the courage to say, that's not the truth? Shall we call for the truth as a frequency to come forward into our experience so that all may see the truth, all of us? And before we go, shall we call for the power of the divine feminine to come back into our world, to bring balance to this circumstance? The way is through honor, respect, and gratitude for ourselves, for each other, and for our earth and the systems that we live in. Honor, respect, and gratitude in Lakesh
In Lakesh.
and Veritas.